I'd like to welcome everyone to San Diego Sports Talk, and good to be here, folks. I've had a lot of people over the last several months say, hey, Coach, you need to start a podcast. Well, we're going to give it a try, and we're going to try to be here at least 2 times a week. Some days it may be video, some days it may be audio, but we're going to get the job done for you. And I want to tell you a little bit about San Diego Sports Talk and the John Kentera Show. Very important that you write this information down. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank everyone for all the great support I've gotten since I left terrestrial radio. The support has been really overwhelming. I've been very humbled by a lot of you folks out there that continue to send me daily messages. Hey, Coach, how you doing? Everything going well? How's your family doing? When are you going to get back at it? You got to start a podcast. Well, we're working on that, and want to get our Padres thoughts out. A great weekend of baseball for the Padres, taking 3 out of 4 in Atlanta. But I'm going to tell you how you can log on and get all the valuable information that we're going to dispense at least a couple times a week. And as we get this thing rolling, and maybe even a little bit more from time to time. But again, thank you for tuning in to San Diego Sports Talk on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube. And we'd ask you to please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any of the content that we're going to be throwing out there. And like I said, we're going to start with at least 2 shows per week. Some days it may be audio, some days it may be video. Also, I would like you to follow me on my Facebook page, and you can follow me on X. And of course, on X, it's at Coach Kentera 44, at Coach Kentera 44 on X, and just John Kentera on my Facebook page, and look forward to getting notes from you from time to time. If you got a question about what's going on in the San Diego sports world, hey, even though I haven't been on daily on the radio in a few months, I'm still getting out to plenty of events, and I'm still watching everything that's going on from the amateur ranks, the youth league, the high school, the college, to the pros. Believe me, I'm still dialed in as good as I've ever been. So I appreciate you joining us. Okay, we're going to get on with the show. And I wanted to talk a little bit today regarding the Padres. Now, the Padres taken 3 out of 4 in Atlanta. And really, there were some really, really positive steps. Positive steps. When I look at this Padre ball club right now, I got to be honest with you. I guess I would use 2 words regarding the Padres. Frustrating, but encouraging. There's a lot of talent, and some of the guys are starting to pick it up. You've had some incredible performances early in the year, and we're going to get into that today as well. But I wanted to talk a little bit about each of the 4 games in the series, and you got to go back to Friday night. Matt Waldron, he throws the knuckleball, but he's not a knuckleball pitcher, they like to say. He's a pitcher that throws the knuckleball. Well, you know what? He went out there, and I thought, for me, threw as good as I've ever seen him. I mean, his numbers were fantastic. A tremendous outing, 5 2/3, 5 hits, a run. It was earned, 2 walks, a career high, 10 punch outs. Got his second win of the year, lowered his ERA down to 5. Now, you got to remember, this guy's a back end of the rotation guy. And he's in the rotation because of the injury to Joe Musgrove, and Randy Vasquez has also taken that spot as well. And we'll talk more about Randy here in a few minutes. But overall, Matt Waldron, a great performance. And the Padres played very well in that first game on Friday night. Now, the problem was they won it 3-1. They had 13 hits, did a great job. The thing that was really interesting in that game was that Mike Schilt decided to use Robert Suarez in the 8th inning. He's their closer, but decided to use him in the 8th inning because he thought the lineup that he would face in the 8th would be tougher in the 8th than it would be the 9th. And Suarez went in there, gave a couple of hits, but had a couple of strikeouts, got through the 8th, and then they turned it over to the rookie, Jeremiah Estrada, and he was absolutely fantastic. In fact, Estrada was so good. He went out there. He was so pumped up. He struck out the side and got his first career save. I mean, unbelievable performance by Estrada, and very coy move by Mike Schilt. Mike Schilt, I got to be honest with you, he kind of irritated me a little bit last week when he kind of downplayed how poorly I thought the Padres played in that series against Colorado. He said when he was asked by Kevin Acee of the Union Tribune, he was asked about, well, what about being outplayed? He goes, well, I didn't think we were outplayed. Well, you know what? You were outplayed. You're outscored 19-7. You're out here 31-19. You kicked the ball around, had a couple of key base running mistakes. You got outplayed and outworked. And if you don't want to say you're outplayed, then I'd say you're outmanaged. But I thought it was more of a case of being outplayed rather than outmanaged. Mike Schultz's pretty savvy manager. He's pretty coy over in that dugout, but he knows what he's doing. But a great start to the Atlanta series. I mean, that was a big win. Coming off the 3 losses to Colorado, are you kidding me? And they were ugly. And the Padres have not played well at home. I mean, they're 10-16 at Petco Park. And if they want to get to where they want to go, they got to play a lot better at home. I mean, they've been a great road team so far this year. They've gotten out on the road, and they're a completely different team. Now, we've seen that in the past from the Padres, especially offensively. But great win on Friday night. They get rained out on Saturday, and that kind of hurt a little bit. But it gave all the pitchers a little bit extra time to get healed up and get some of the soreness out, get that bullpen a little bit deeper. And then Sunday Night Baseball, national TV. We always talk about being Padre fans. We always talk about how, things aren't going our way. We don't get the national recognition. Well, I got news for you. We got a lot of national recognition on Sunday night from the standpoint. Padres went out there, did one heck of a job, and hammered the Atlanta Braves 9-1. Absolutely hammered them. And there were a lot of great performers. Yu Darvish, and we got to talk about Yu Darvish and the numbers that he has put up. Incredible. I mean, his numbers coming out of that game on Sunday night, once again, brilliant. 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, a walk, 9 strikeouts, extended his career-high scoreless inning streak to 25. He also earned his 200th professional victory. Got 107 big league wins and 93 over in the NPB, the Nippon Professional Baseball League. And he's had an unbelievable career. And the big thing with Yu Darvish now, you got to keep him healthy. You got to get Musgrove back, and we're going to talk about Joe here in a few minutes, but you got to get Darvish to stay healthy, and Musgrove's got to come back and stay healthy. And then we're really talking about making a big run. Now, I don't think we can catch the Dodgers. Let's be realistic here. The Dodgers are a heck of a ball club. They got a big lead already in the division. But at the end of the day, we know if we get into a short series with the Dodgers, we've seen it in the past. We saw it, in 2022. Padres can match up. They can match up with them. They really can. And for whatever reason, the Padres seem to really play the Dodgers extremely tough. Extremely tough. And, we'll talk about that. Hopefully the Padres stay in the wild card and they get to where they want to go. But I want to continue talking about this Atlanta series. Now, the game on Monday, things didn't look good. Dylan Cease did not have his usual Dylan Cease stuff. I mean, he left a lot of pitches in the middle of the plate, and they also hit a couple of pretty good pitches. But at the end of the day, Padres were down 5-0. And then they come back, and you figured, you know what? They won the first 2. They get a split in the doubleheader. They'd probably be happy, get out of Atlanta 3 out of 4, wing their way to Cincinnati. But they came back and won that ball game. Manny had a big 2-run double to give the Padres a lead, and that was marvelous because really the bullpen and some interesting stuff in that bullpen, folks. If you didn't get a chance to see the ball game, they had a 27th man. With a doubleheader, you're allowed to add a player to the roster. And the Padres added right-hander Logan Gillespie, coming up from El Paso. And he went out there and did a marvelous job. And in fact, really, the bullpen in itself did a marvelous job. I mean, they were down 5-0. Logan Gillespie, 2 innings right off the plane from El Paso, gave up 2 hits, had 2 strikeouts as the 27th man, bridged the gap, held him in check. And then they turned it over to Johnny Brito. And I realized that Brito's numbers have not been out of sight. Guy's got a good arm, just needs to continue to learn how to pitch at the big league level. But Brito went in there for an inning, gave up a hit, a strikeout. And then the Padres, they're trying to find their way back into it. They get the lead. And Jeremiah Estrada, another solid inning, couple of strikeouts, and then they turn it over to Robert Suarez. He picks up his 13th save, and he retired the side on 7 pitches. I mean, it couldn't have gone any better. And the Padres pounded the ball. I mean, they had 10 hits. Braves had 12, but the Braves, they scored early, and that was about all she wrote. And the Padres took advantage of a poor bullpen effort by the Bravos in game 1. And then in game 2, Randy Vasquez going to the mound. And I'll tell you what, I know Randy Vasquez's numbers are not great, but I like this guy. And he's another guy that just needs to pitch at the big league level. And I thought he did a pretty good job. He gave up 3 runs in 6 innings, gave up 10 hits, gave up the 1 home run to Marcell Ozuna, who has been hitting a lot of home runs. That was his 14th of the year, by the way. But, you score 3 on him. And again, he won a career high 6 innings. He takes the loss. ERA not great at 5.82, but he's a young guy still learning how to pitch at the big league level, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But the problem for Randy Vasquez, he ran up against one of the hottest pitchers in baseball, in left-hander Chris Sale of the Bravos. I mean, this guy's had a great career. The only thing that has sidetracked him from probably being a Hall of Famer, he's had a lot of injuries, but he got Hall of Fame stuff. He improved to 7-1. He was solid 7 innings, gave up just 5 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts. I mentioned he improved to 7-1, dropped his ERA down to 2.22. And then they went in the bullpen. Pierce Johnson, our old buddy that was here for a couple of years, working out of that Braves bullpen. He went out there and threw a shutout frame, and then they turned it over to Raisel Iglesias, the former Cincinnati Red, an Angel, and he good closer, man. He got a good change-up, got a pretty good slider, and he retired the side in order in the top half of the 9th. He picked up his 11th save. But all in all, tremendous outing, 3-4. Now, again, the Padres, I mentioned, frustrating but encouraging. They're 25-25. They just can't work their way over that 500 mark for an extended period of time. And today it lasted about 6 hours. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Cincinnati series coming up. They got to get 2 out of 3 to get ready to come home and take on the Yankees. So there'll be at least a game over 500. But again, the Reds, they're struggling, but they got some exciting players. We'll talk about them, and they're kind of licking their wounds. They took that first game last Thursday night at Dodger Stadium, and then they lost 3 straight to the Dodgers. Yesterday, on Sunday, they got beat by Ohtani on a base hit in the 10th inning. But the Padres right now are playing overall pretty good baseball. They had the hiccup against the Rockies. That's going to happen. When you're playing 162 games, you're going to have those hiccups. I got to tell you, it was frustrating. It was very frustrating. And the Rockies, let's face it, they don't have a lot. And the Padres, maybe they weren't ready to play, or maybe the Rockies just all of a sudden were in a great situation, playing well. They'd won 4 in a row. They left San Diego having won 7 in a row, and then they went up and got swept in a 4-game series by Bob Melvin's San Francisco Giants. So they can't be all that great, because the Giants aren't all that great, and they've been banged up, and they're starting to get some of their injured bodies back. Now, let's talk about Xander Bogarts. And this is going to be the story, I think, until he gets back in the lineup. I mean, Xander got hurt in game 1 today, making a great diving play to save. 1 run came in, but another run would have scored, but he was writhing in pain. And I was sitting watching the game, and I go, oh, no. I'm a big Xander Bogarts fan for a variety of reasons. I think he's a great pro. I think he's a good guy. I think he's an introverted type ball player. Doesn't like to say a lot, but he internalizes and puts a tremendous amount of pressure on himself. And I know a lot of people that dealt with him when he was in Boston, and I got some really good info on him. And he's going to come around. He will come around. He's that type of ball player, and we saw it last year. But he hurt that left shoulder, came out into the game, and Mike Shildt said after game 1, they did an MRI on him, and they said the imaging came back and didn't look like there was any structural damage. He's going to be sore. I don't know if he'll be ready to play at all in the Cincinnati series. It's going to be listed day to day, and hopefully it's nothing more than that. And you know what? I think overall, considering he got moved from shortstop to second base. I think he's played defensively. I think he's played pretty well. Offensively, he's not the same player, nor has he been the same player since he put a Padre uniform on. He ended up finishing pretty strong last year, still not driving in runs, leaving a lot of runners on base, but he'll find his stroke. He'll find his stroke. But that's going to be the big A topic regarding, where you're at with Xander Bogarts. And I've already had people reach out to me and say, well, if he's out, what are they going to do at second base? Well, I think they got great options. Number one, you got Luis Arraez. You could move Jake Cronenworth over there and put Arraez at first if you want. You got Donovan Solano, who, by the way, I think was a really nice add to the roster. He can play first, or he can play second, or he can play third. And, and you also got Tyler Wade, who Mike Schild has utilized, I think, in a pretty solid way. I know there are some people, why is Tyler Wade on this team? Tyler Wade's left-hand hitter. He can play multiple positions, and it gives the manager a lot of flexibility. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the roster with the Padres right now. We're going to break down the roster a little bit and just kind of talk about who's doing what. And I got to start at first base. Jake Cronenworth, coming off of last year, each of the last 3 years, his numbers had gone down, and they weren't going in a real positive direction. But Jake's off to a great start, hitting number 3 in the lineup more times than not. And the other thing, he's still playing that stellar defense. I mean, stellar defense down there. I think Cronenworth, who's been to 2 All-Star games, he may be headed to his third All-Star game, the way he's playing right now. And I know first base is a spot that is really there's a log jam with good first baseman, but he's playing good baseball, playing really good baseball. Now at second base, whether it's Bogarts or whether it's Luis Arraez, Padres are in good shape there. Arraez may not have the range of a guy like Bogarts, but he can catch it, he can throw it, and he can turn the double play. But Arraez, what a great pickup by the Padres and A.J. Preller. I mean, they got him for a song. And this guy, he's won batting titles each of the last 2 years. He won one with Minnesota, then he won last year with Miami. The thing that cracked me up last week, there was a thing that came out, and they were checking bat speed. And they were saying Luis Arraez had the slowest bat speed of any qualified major league player. Well, you know what? I think we can all learn from Luis Arraez just how good his bat speed is, man. He can put the bat on the ball. In fact, when he was in Miami, I saw in his off-season workouts, I saw some things on X, and I was watching. He was working out in the cage, and his swing is just picture perfect. And I really was hoping, and I think A.J. Preller was hoping a few years ago, when Arraez came in here with the Minnesota Twins and really did some damage against the Padres, I think he was kind of hoping to maybe acquire him there. But he ended up in Miami, had a great season a year ago. Remember, he was flirting with 400? And the Marlins are going absolutely nowhere. I think the manager, good guy, by the way, Skip Schumacher, who was one of our coaches here for a few years. He's a manager, did a great job last year. And I think he can't get out of Miami fast enough. I mean, he doesn't have a chance right now. They got too many young guys, too much dysfunction in that organization. But they trade Arraez to the Padres. That was a blessing. Then you go over to shortstop. Ha-Seong Kim has had his moments. He's made some great plays, and he's kicked some routine plays. And it'll be interesting to see how he matches up, range-wise and air-wise from Bogarts a year ago. I thought Bogarts played pretty well last year at shortstop. I didn't really see a big need for the change, but, they're looking at a variety of different things. But Ha-Seong Kim, we know he's a great defender. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, is he as good a shortstop as Bogarts or vice versa? They're both quality major league players. And it'll be interesting to see, because Ha-Seong has not hit the ball anywhere near like he did a year ago. I'm anxious to see how the Padres are going to handle him this offseason, because he is a free agent. And then you got Manny Machado. How much the shoulder's still barking for Manny, I don't know. And maybe one day it's not feeling good, the next day it feels good. But he's starting to take better swings at the plate. He's hitting right around 230 right now. Power numbers aren't great. In the first game of the doubleheader on Monday, he had that big double, 2-run double, which was huge. He's starting to swing better. There's no doubt about it. He's getting a little work at third, DHing some of the time. I'm not going to spend a lot of time breaking down Manny Machado, because at the end of the year, he'll have close to 30 bombs, probably 90-plus RBIs. I mean, Look at the back of his baseball card. As long as he plays his 150 or so games, you know what his numbers are going to end up. Okay? Now, let's go to the outfield. Jurickson Profar is on fire right now. And you know what? Good for him. I've always thought that he was a fourth outfielder. And I think more times than not, he has been a fourth outfielder on just about every ball club he's been on except the Padres. You put a Padre uniform on him, and this guy's a different animal. And right now, I was talking about Cronenworth going to the All-Star game. Hey, right now, Profar, he won't be voted in as an All-Star, but he certainly ought to be on the All-Star team if he continues for another month doing what he's doing right now. I mean, he's just on fire, whether it's left-handed, right-handed, swinging the bat, doing one heck of a job. And you know what? He's a good guy, good team guy, always got a smile on his face, good to the fans. And it was a good $1 million investment to bring him back. I got news for you. Next year, you're going to make a lot more. Remember, he turned that Padre deal down and then went to Colorado, had a miserable year, and then the Padres picked him up last year. But good to have him back and good to see him. Right now, he's having a career year. You got to remember, when he was coming up in the Texas organization, this guy, for 2 years in a row, was the number one minor league prospect in all of baseball, top prospect in all of baseball. And he had some injuries, and he spent time with Texas. He went to Oakland. He came to the Padres, started to put his career together really nicely, and then, opted out of his deal, went to Colorado, didn't work out, came back last year, signed this year. And you know what? He's still a fairly young guy. I mean, early 30s. He still got, and he keeps himself in great shape. I can't speak higher of a player on this roster right now than Profar, as well as he's playing. I want to move to center field because Jackson Merrill, a kid that had only played 46 double-A games, has been amazing. He's a shortstop, and who knows, he may end up back at shortstop one of these years. But the way he is taken to center field, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Playing great defense. There's not one time that I've said this year, wow, that's a bad play by Jackson. He don't make bad plays. I will tell you this, and I think he'll get better with this, with experience. Sometimes he bananas a route rather than taking a more direct route, but that comes with experience and getting fly balls and batting practice. You can take all the fungos you want, but you got to get out there during batting practice and read the bat head and get those jumps off a live competition. But doing a great job. He's hit really well on the road. I mean, he's hit about 375, 380 on the road, but he's hitting like 190 at Petco Park. That has to change. But I have no complaints with Jackson Merrill. I mean, he falls behind in counts, hangs in there, good quality at bats, not giving at bats away. Now let's go over to right field, Fernando. And I've said this many a time. He's my favorite Padre. He's my favorite player on the team because he's got the most talent of anybody on the team. But he hadn't performed the way he can. I don't know what's going on. Every once in a while, he'll run into one and everybody gets all excited. But day to day, he hadn't been a great player. I mean, hitting right around 250. He had to be able to run 250 with that great speed. Playing a good right field. I know he had a couple of errors early in the year, but he's getting back to being that platinum glove outfielder. But I'm expecting more from him. You know what's kind of interesting for me with him? I like him leading off. It seems like to me when he leads off, he plays with more energy. He doesn't play with the energy that I think he played with 2, 3, 4 years ago. And maybe you agree or disagree with me on that, but that's kind of the way I see it. I'd like to see him, lead off, but now you got Arise. But you know what? That would be great. Think about this. Arise is not a base stealer. How about putting Fernando in leadoff? He gets on. Arise, a left-hand hitter, gives the catcher a little bit more problem, maybe trying to throw Fernando out. And I think Fernando may get engaged a little bit more. I think sometimes when he's hitting not in the leadoff spot, he tries to do a little bit too much. Sometimes try to hit the ball out of the ballpark, swings early in the count, which isn't a bad thing, but you got to know the situation. And so that's my take on that. And then, of course, you got the bench, Donovan Solano, good pickup. I think Kyle Higashioka, the backup catcher, he's fine. He hadn't hit much, but he is what he is. And he does a nice job for the most part catching Matt Waldron when he's throwing that knuckleball. He's been primarily Waldron's catcher. And then you got Tyler Wade, who can play multiple positions. I talked about him a little bit earlier. And then you got Jose Azocar, who I got to tell you, this kid has really made himself a lot better major league ball player. I mean, he was okay last year, but he's a lot better this year. It looks like he spent some time in the weight room. Definitely upped his game for me. Better bat speed, better power. He comes in a lot of times late in the ball game to sub for Jerkson out there in left field, or they may stick him in right and move Wade over to left occasionally. But more times than not, Ozokar is going to come in for Profar out there in left field. And he's gotten some time in center field when they've given Merrill a day off. And then behind the plate, here's a guy that I wasn't sure was going to make it with the Padres, Luis Campusano. He'd been up and down and all around, but last year he started to come into his own, swinging the bat pretty well, doing more dynamic job behind the plate, much better behind the plate from the standpoint of working with the pitchers. And I don't know how much PitchCom has helped or not helped him, but I know he's been more in tune with his pitching staff. Him and Ruben Niebla and the pitching staff on the same page. There was once upon a time, not all that long ago, not this year, but last year and the year before, when pitchers, they came to Bob Melvin, or they came primarily to Ruben Niebla and said, I don't want to throw to Campusano. But you know what? He's worked and worked and worked, and I think he's doing a great job really on both sides of the ball. He's never going to be Johnny Bench behind the plate, but he's certainly not a negative behind the plate. He's really worked hard, and I've been so impressed with his overall game. And when he comes up to the plate, I have a lot of confidence that he's going to swing the bat and give you a good quality major league at bat. So that's my breakdown of the Padres. I could get into the pitching staff. We'll do that another time. But I do want to talk a little bit about the series in Cincinnati. This is big. I mean, the Padres right now, they've got 112 games to go, folks. They're at 500. 500. But you know what? You're right there. 500, you're right in the wild card race. Take a look at the standings. Whether you take a look at after the games that are played tonight, or you open up your paper in the morning, reading your paper, drinking your coffee, Padres are right in this thing. And they haven't played their best baseball yet. And we don't know how much money is available, maybe for them to go out and get some help, maybe get another arm. You're getting Joe Musgrove back in the first game against the Cincinnati Reds. Now, Joe's 3-3. He's got a high ERA. I'm hoping he's healthy. I thought that he would probably go down and make a start in the minor leagues, but they're going to bring him up. They're going to activate him, and they'll have to make a roster move. Vasquez will probably go back to El Paso and let him continue to work. The other thing I want to say about the Padres, they're starting to build some depth down there in AAA. They signed David Peralta. And anybody that listened to my show for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been wanting to get David Peralta in a Padre uniform for years. I don't know how much he has left. I really don't, but they signed him. He's playing over in El Paso. I wanted to see him 2 years ago when the Arizona traded him to Tampa Bay. I wanted to see the Padres get him. Well, they didn't. He ended up with the Dodgers last year. Okay, now the Padres get him. He's about 36 years of age. I don't know how much is left, but the guy's a gamer. He'll help some of the younger kids down there in AAA. He's a good guy. And we could talk more about David Peralta. I know a lot about him, but I'll leave it at that. The Padres are building down there in AAA. They got some arms down there they're developing. Robbie Snelling's throwing the ball pretty well in AA. Adam Major got moved from AA to AAA. He's pitching pretty well. We may see him here at some point in time. But they're getting Musgrove back. And I'm going to take a look and give you a little bit of a breakdown for the games in Cincinnati. And again, the Padres, you get 2 out of 3. You come home Friday night against the Bronx Bombers. Yeah, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, Juan Soto, they're all going to be at Petco Park on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's going to be buzzing in downtown San Diego. All the waiters, waitresses, they're looking to make some big tips because, man, it's going to be packed down there each and every day and night. Okay, now, the matchups for Tuesday in the Great American Ballpark. I like to call it the Great American Bandbox. I mean, that ball, you talk about Coors Field, Great American Ballpark, you hit a ball to right field, it's gone. I mean, you hit a fly ball to right field, it's gone. There are going to be some offensive fireworks in this series. No question about it. Now, first game, you got Big Joe Musgrove, 3-3 and a 6.37 coming off the IL, going against rookie left-hander Andrew Abbott, 2-4 and a 3.06. The young kid has pitched pretty well. Wednesday, right-hander Michael King, 3-4, 4.31, throwing the ball exceptionally well right now. Going against our old buddy, the right-hander Nick Martinez. And the Reds like to play around. David Bell, their manager, he likes to play around and maybe bring a bullpen guy in to use the starter and then bring Martinez in for the bulk of the work. But right now, they've got Nick starting the game on Wednesday. Martinez 1-2 and a 4.23, coming off a really good outing last time out against the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. And then the final game on Thursday, and that's going to be an early ball game at 10:10. It'll be right-hander Matt Waldron, 2-5 and a 5 ERA, going against the former Oakland A and New York Yankee Frankie Montas, 2-3 and a 4.37. And like I mentioned, Padres sitting at 25-25 right now. Right in the wild card, right there. But Arizona is starting to play a little bit better. The Giants definitely playing better. They got back Jorge Soler. Matt Chapman starting to swing the bat a little bit. They got some things brewing up there in San Francisco. So the Padres, they're in the wild card, no doubt about it, but they've got to start working their way over that 500 mark. And if they can do that, they're going to coast into the playoffs. They really are. I think, if you finish in second in the National League West, I got to believe you're going to be a wild card team. Now, if you finish third, all bets are off on that, folks. But like I mentioned, we're going to be doing this a couple times a week, some days video, some days just audio, depending on the situation of what I'm doing, where I'm at. And I want to remind everyone, I want to thank you for tuning in to San Diego Sports Talk, the John Kentera Show. But also, please subscribe to the channel and please like the video. Turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of the content. And again, we're going to start with 2 shows per week, audio or video. And you can follow me, Coach John Kentera, on X and Facebook, and at X at Coach Kentera 44. X is at Coach Kentera 44. Overall, Padres off to a good start on this 7-game road trip. They got 4 games in the books, and right now they're 3-1. Hopefully they can keep it going, starting with the first game on Tuesday night, Joe Musgrove going against the Cincinnati Reds, and we'll rejoin you a little bit later in the week, wrap up the series, and get you ready for the Bronx Bombers. Have a great night, and thanks again for tuning in to the John Kentera Show on San Diego Sports Talk.